Hello, everyone. I'm so excited about this interview. This is my last interview for the month. We saved one of the best for last, right? Because everybody was good, but this is one of the best for last. This is my brother, my friend. He's a husband, a father, and just a great overall person.
Wow.
We've been knowing each other since we were teenagers. I met him. It started at All Joy Ministry. Him and his brothers were rapping. Remember, what was your name of your group, your rap group, Chris?
Boys for Christ.
Boys for Christ, that's right. And you guys used to kill it. I mean, like really legit rapping. And I've seen him transition through life from a assistant pastor to an elder to just becoming an all-around grown man doing grown man things. And he's been through some life up and down. So I think his story is going to be amazing. And I just want to just really get into it about how God is taking you from one level to another level, and the lessons that you learn in life, right? That I think are so important. So first, I want to talk about your start off with Christ. I know that you started with the Boys from Christ rap. How was that? Like rapping with your brothers at different churches and
Well, first of all, let me say thank you for this opportunity.
yes.
You and your platform. I don't know why you chose me. I'm just me. But nonetheless, I'm happy to be here. So I was born and raised in the church. My mom reared us up, me and my two brothers in the church. So church is all I really know. And we stumbled upon rapping because in the house, we only had gospel music.
Yeah.
So we ran across this man named Frank Hooker, and he was a gospel rapper, and he had a rap song, and we began to rehearse it. And we knew all the words, all the verses, the hook. It was called Hear the Word.
Yes.
And we began with that one, and we began to write our own raps, and then it kind of picked up speed and going to different churches, and we've been in the studio, we've recorded songs. So it was a great time to bond with your family and
Yes.
have fun.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Now, what was it like growing up with your parents in the house? Because I know you had some situations. So what was it like growing up, in the household with your brothers and your parents?
So my birth father wasn't in my life maybe since I was like 2 years old.
Wow.
So my two brothers, people don't really know this, we don't have the same father. So my brother Daniel and Ezekiel have the same father. So he really was raised as my father. What happened, his name was Christopher. So they thought that I was just a junior, but I wasn't.
Wow.
So we grew up, and again, Christian home, and challenges, challenges that any family would have. And my mom had to give her big shots out. My mom is the greatest. She reared us up in church.
Yeah.
Through all of our trials. We grew up in the Bronx and then migrated to Brooklyn and then to Queens. It was
Yeah.
all a church foundation. So we grew up
Yeah.
with gospel music and on
Yeah.
Saturdays, and I never knew what the radio was. Hot 97,
Wow.
Kiss FM. All I knew was gospel music and choirs and playing the drums. That's all I knew.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. I grew up in the church too. I adopted the streets later on, but definitely,
Same here.
yes, we adopted the streets later on, but we grew up in the church. Something about them church people, them church kids, they
Mm.
can't find their way out of them streets. You know what I'm saying? The streets be calling.
And we answer, and we answer.
We do answer. Why do you think that it is that a lot of us that grew up in the church find the street so attractive?
I think we feel that we're missing something because when I grew up and when you grew up, being a Christian wasn't attractive. You couldn't
Yeah.
wear makeup. How you have makeup on now and your
Yeah.
hair a certain way and earrings, that was frowned upon. I even can go back as far as saying there were some churches who couldn't go to the movies and couldn't have fun.
Yeah.
Our friends having fun, going to the movies and even doing some bad stuff, it was attractive. And the church
Yeah.
was, sitting down on Sundays and hearing a boring message and
Yeah.
couldn't move, couldn't have fun. So that was pulling us, and like
Yeah.
many of us answered. And many people, if you ask them, have a church foundation, but they kind of strayed away.
Yeah. That's so good, Chris, because there's a literature that I teach called from Mark Twain called Letters from the Earth.
Mm.
And Letter to the Earth. And he's basically writing it as the form of Satan trying to attract people away from God. Like, why would you want to go to church? It's boring and you can't have sex. All the things that you love to do, God is telling you is not good to do. So I think that, that's why I'm glad that the church is transitioning now to a place where we're trying to say that God is not boring, right? That's not who God is. I think the pandemic helped transition that, but also the call of millennials. How do you feel about the transitioning of the church?
I think it's needed. One of the people who I admire is Bishop Jakes.
Yeah, me too.
Bishop Jakes just kind of pulled on one of his newest people, Pastor Joe Tudman, and he has braids on a global stage. And 5 years ago, 10 years ago, definitely 20 years ago, that would have never happened.
Yes.
You can see, other people who have earrings in their ear, and whether I agree or not, the church has to transition because we were losing a whole generation. Who was not caught up on attire and caught up on, Greek and Hebrew words.
Yeah.
Real experience. Let me feel God that I heard my grandmother talk about in the in dinner. What is this God? And why do I have to have on a shirt and tie or have my hair a certain way? Why can't I be wild and still be in God? So I think it's a thin line because sometimes I believe it's too far.
Yes, me too.
But I don't have a heaven or hell to put anybody in. My life, and I'm sure we'll get into that later on, my life journey has really caused me to rethink a lot of things. I think that some things we think that God is thinking about, he doesn't care about. Because it's underneath all those layers of whether it's a t-shirt, a chain, an earring, a nose ring, makeup, a wig, bald head, under all of that, he wants to get to your heart. That's what matters.
You say so. Chris, I love that. This is why I'm so glad I had you, because it is true. God is concerned with the heart. And I think that we get away from that, right? So much, especially the old tradition of the church. There's things I love about the old tradition of the church, right? And I agree there's a thin line. Sometimes people will take the Bible out of context to fit their own carnal desires. And so I'm totally against that, right? But I wanted to segue into what you called your life, some of your life journeys. And I know, I've been knowing you for such a long time, so I know some of it, but I want to, we've been disconnected because we've all, kind of done this adulting thing, right? What are some of the epiphanies that helped you grow up into your manhood?
I would have to say parenting. Parenting has made me man up. I kind of didn't understand what I thought life was. I was just having babies. As you said, your audience doesn't know, but I have 5 children total. My first 4 was actually from a woman who passed away.
Yes, and I know that was tough. That was tough.
Very, very, very tough.
How did you get through that? You and Tay have been together since you guys were teenagers.
That was tough. That was one of those epiphanies because I didn't understand why and how God could do that to me.
Yeah.
He took my teenage sweetheart. He took my his mother. He took my wife. He took someone who I had spent 19 years with, know, and it was suddenly. It wasn't like she was, she had to have a surgery. She got an infection. And less than a week, she passed away. She transitioned.
Wow.
So upon that happening, I went through depression. I went through suicidal ideations. I didn't know how to make it. I'm a father now, 4 children, a single father. So those were one of those epiphanies into parenting now that made me man up because my life changed and is changing forever. Church transitions and just personal things, but that right there, parenting, has made me man up.
Oh, I love that. I got emotional when you started talking about Tay because I'm looking at her, right? I'm seeing her face growing up. Like, these are people I grew up with. So when I heard Tay pass, like, it broke my heart, to tell you the truth. And then I thought about you. I prayed for you. I was like, God, now Chris got to take care of 4 children by himself. And so I love the fact that God has brought you through that. What were some of the tools that you use to get over the grief. We've have during this pandemic, we see loss after loss after loss, grief after grief after grief. And I know that somebody may be listening and dealing with that. What helped you get over that loss? And you don't never really get over it, so maybe that's the wrong word, but what helped you kind of rise above it?
Well, I told you beforehand that I'm an open book, and I
Mm-hmm.
haven't really spoken publicly about this on any
Mm-hmm.
platform. I have a book that I'm writing right now just to tell my story. But
Yeah.
to be honest, with all due respect, I've never said anything negative about my children's mother, my first
Mm-hmm.
wife. I love her, will always love her,
Yeah.
um, and she's always in my heart. Our
Yes.
marriage was going through transition when she
Right.
passed away. Our marriage was struggling.
Yeah.
Um, so when she passed away, I was in limbo because although we were struggling, I was still in love with her. I still loved her.
Yeah.
Um, One of the things that helped me get over it was keep moving. I just couldn't stop moving. Now
Mm-hmm.
I'm currently in therapy, which I promote everyone and
Yes.
everybody to go to therapy. It doesn't mean you're crazy. It
Right.
doesn't mean you're disadvantaged. It means you're smart enough to say, I need to talk to someone.
Yes.
So
Yes.
one thing I didn't do when she passed away was get therapy right away.
Yeah.
Not for me or my children. I didn't know.
Right.
Again, old-fashioned church. I said prayer and my church family, we're gonna make it through it. My kids are gonna be
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I'll be fine. But that was not the case. So again, to answer your question, what got me through was all I knew how to do was provide. So I began to
Mm.
be a workaholic, and I moved us from one apartment to a new apartment, and I had the apartment furnished, and I did all the things
Mm-hmm.
I could do not to think about. I'm a single father. I'm a widower. Widowers aren't really common. You see more men passing
Yes.
away than women, or,
Yes.
wives. So to lose my wife, I was just like, what do I do? But I kept moving.
Yes.
Later on, not to be off topic, but in therapy, I found out that wasn't the smartest choice. So if you're
Yeah.
listening and you're going through grief, you may feel like if I stop moving, I'll think about it. But thinking about it helps you deal with it.
Mm.
Moving was to not think about it, but I didn't deal with it. And then, as I said, if you choose to go into further, I did a lot of things and made some choices that were good for me, but weren't good overall because my children were
Mm-hmm.
now challenged with their father seeking love again, which is nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I was torn between my social life, my love life, and parenting.
Ooh, that's good, Chris. Because let me stop you right there. Because
Sure,
I want to just let you know that you're not alone in that.
yeah,
I
yeah.
remember, and it wasn't a death for me, but it was my divorce, right?
Mm,
And I remember feeling like so broken. Like it feels like a death when somebody like you go through this divorce. And I was just like searching because you're so used to being in a long relationship, especially
mm,
if you've been in a relationship for over 10 years. I was with my ex for 15 years.
wow.
And I just wanted that feeling again,
Yeah,
right? Like somebody to sleep next to, somebody to be with.
yeah,
It's so hard to one day be with somebody and to the next day not being with someone,
yeah.
and people need to talk about that. I was driving down the road the other day and I saw a class for divorcees, divorcee class, come get some healing. And I think we need to see more of that because people want to just glaze over the fact that some people have a hard time transitioning from being in a relationship, even if it wasn't good, right? Or even if you were going through things
Yeah.
to now being alone. And I found myself sometimes not, unconsciously trying to find love, right? Neglecting the needs of my kids,
Yeah.
right? Or not thinking that they were hurting too, right? Or just not because I was going through so much pain and I really had to stop and reprocess everything. So I totally understand what you're saying by that.
It was a tough decision. To this day, I'm still dealing with the aftermath of his
Mm-hmm.
death, the aftermath of my decision to remarry, the aftermath of not really focusing 100% on my children. And today,
Yeah.
almost 5 years later, I can admit that. But it wasn't a bad thing, though. And I want to make that clear.
Yes, of
It wasn't
course.
a bad thing to want to love again, but I did not follow the steps that I could have because my mindset was
Mm-hmm.
to love someone who I thought could love my children also. and does love them as well. Oh, I love you too. I love you too. I
We
love
love
you
you.
too. I love you too. Um, to marry someone who I felt could love my children and did love my children, but I had
Yeah.
no idea that the loss of a mother would be so daunting that
Yeah.
even someone good in their life would seem like an enemy because she or he or whoever cannot fill that
Wow.
void. So I started wrong.
Yeah.
What do you do? I was 30, I was 37, 36 when she passed away, still in my prime.
Mm-hmm.
Our marriage was on the decline. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I wanted to love again and be loved again. And I've been through so much opinions from people, and it was
Mm-hmm.
fast, and you shouldn't have done that, and how could you? And everyone had their opinions, but it was my life.
Yes. Yes.
I never
Yes.
did anything to harm my children, but I did not get them therapy because I didn't know any better. And by the
Mm-hmm.
time I did want to, the pandemic hit, and
Yeah.
therapy in person was obsolete. And virtual therapy is very hard to get the attention of children through virtual therapy. So,
Mm-hmm. I love the fact that God will sometimes take us through things so he can process us and grow us and learn from our mistakes. Even in me and you having that similar story, and we've never talked about this. So this
yeah,
is totally God. We have that similar thing that went through where I'm still having to reaffirm my kids, right? And
yeah,
really set aside time and be intentional about their need for love and their need to know what I need, right? And so my communication is so much different now. I love that. But I love who God is, even in that process, right? Because there's some growth that comes out of that, right, Chris? Like,
my God.
yeah, there's growth that comes out of that. I mean, and so we can look back and say, oh man, we should have did differently. But at the end of the day, God is still God and he's working it out and he's processing it. And that we become a testimony for other people.
I have said this to my wife, to myself, to others who I trust. There has to be a reason why I'm going through this.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't have paid me $10 million to guess my life would take this path.
Yeah.
The only other resolve I have is to say it was God. It has to
Yeah.
be
Yes.
because it was God. He has to be preparing me for a nation of people who
Yes.
hear what I'm going through.
Amen.
Because one thing that I also realized, and you can stop me at any time because I can talk.
No,
I
please.
realized that there are blended families everywhere.
Yes,
The traditional family is almost again obsolete.
it is.
Mom, dad, two kids and a dog. Now it's
Mm-hmm.
stepmom or stepdad or stepchildren or coming together. And I think that God is really putting me through this to help other blended families because I've
Yeah.
gone and am currently going through it.
Right. Right.
But my only foundation has been God.
Amen.
I haven't been church.
No.
Let me pause and let that sink in. It hasn't been church. It
Mm-hmm.
hasn't been church people. It hasn't
Mm-hmm.
been friends or relationships or sex or marriage. It's only been God that has
Mm-hmm.
sanity and has kept me holding on to what I know God is because
Ooh.
things I've been through have been so crazy. It's enough to make you quit
Yes.
on God.
Yes.
But I said, you know what? You brought me too far. Because
Ooh, Chris.
although I'm going through this and that,
Mm.
I still got life.
Mm-hmm.
I had COVID-19 in the beginning, and I have underlying issues, health.
Right.
I made it through it. Where
Amen.
thousands have died, God kept me through COVID-19.
Yes.
There has to be a reason why. So
Yes.
God's been my only constant, my only source of strength, of healing, of wisdom. You know, it's only God.
I will say, and I want to, I love that because I think that's one thing that I talked about the pandemic has really shed a light on, right?
Mm.
It's not, I think so many times, we, and on past that, I agree, only God for me too. We know that, like,
Yeah,
because I must say that a lot of times we focus so much on our leaders, our pastors, on this church person, this to get us through. And I think the pandemic showed us that, you got to have a personal relationship with me.
yeah, Yeah.
I mean, I remember those times too where I felt like giving up on God, the church, and everything. And then I asked myself, God was like, who do you think you are? How dare you? I didn't brought you through things that only me, God could have brought you through.
Yeah.
So I think
You're
that that's
entitled
important.
to God's blessings. Like we're
Yeah.
entitled. Like God, you owe me this blessing, and it's like
Mm.
you aren't entitled to my blessings. And if
Ooh.
you are, blessings have a prerequisite of trials. So if you are entitled to blessings, you are
Ooh.
entitled to the trials that yield those blessings. And sometimes those trials are breathtaking. They're crushing. They're heartbreaking. My
Yes.
heart was broken,
Yes.
but if I belong to God, He can do what He will to
Ooh,
me.
you're getting me so emotional because I
You know?
I know that feeling. I know
Yeah,
that pain. I know that brokenness, right? I know that place where God breaks you and you like, God, I just need you to pull me through. Just if you get me past just an inch, I'll be able to make the other mile. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? I
yeah,
know that place.
yeah.
Oh God, God is so good
It's
though.
tough. It's tough, and I really appreciate this platform because people just don't understand.
Yeah.
Everyone has opinions, but no one has compassion. No
Mm.
one understands. Everyone to say, point the finger, but if you were in these shoes, I guarantee you'd fold
Yeah. Yeah.
because you become one person who is responsible for many. And every decision you make, they're waiting on it, to work
Yeah.
while
Yeah.
others outside are waiting for it not to work. So
Yeah.
it's a lot to be a believer through trials, and with this social media era, everything is public and nothing is private. And,
Yeah.
so I've been through it, but I'm still standing. I'm still smiling, and right now my focus is to repair the breach between me and my children.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. That's good. And I believe God is going to do it because he's faithful to his word,
Yeah.
and he knows our heart, right? And as long as our heart is pure and we come before him with a request, he's got to hear us. He has to answer. So I love that. I love that transparency that you shared. I want to talk a little bit about the church because I've seen you transition in different roles of the church, right? From a assistant pastor to an elder and even recently just transitioning to new ministries. I think that in this time we're seeing a lot of people transition right
Mhm.
in the church, and not just because of the times that we're living in, but people just saying, I need something different, I need something more. This is a new season for me. What do you feel about that? What do you have to say? How was your transitions? Like, what made you decide I need a new season?
Mhm. Well, every transition is different for every person.
Right.
Only you know what your tolerance is. Only you know what you need in that season.
Yeah.
My most recent transition, again, it's no secret, and I gave you permission to ask away. So before the new year came in, my wife and I decided to transition from our last ministry. Nothing bad to say about the pastor or the
Of
ministry.
course.
We love them and respect that season of our life, and only a
Amen.
few would talk about where he came from, because where he came from, whether good or bad, got him or her to where they are now.
Oh, and let me just jump in
Yeah.
there and say something. My girlfriend says something that's very important.
Mhm.
She says, Chalet, it doesn't matter the personality of the leaders, whether you left because they hurt you, whether you left because something happened, whether you left because you didn't like when something was going on. You have to always honor grace.
Yeah.
I'll shout out to my girlfriend, Prophetess Latoya, and that's something that I do anyway. But
Mhm.
when she said that, she put it in words for me. So it doesn't matter the personality. I always honor grace. If you've laid your hands on me, if you've imparted anything into my life, if you've prayed for me, if you've covered my family, you don't have to worry about me not honoring the grace on your life, right? Everybody has different personalities. We all have seasons where we must transition, right? But as far as me bad talking you and dishonoring you, no. I honor the grace of your life, okay, in your life.
If you were to badmouth, and again, everything has its reason and its
Of
place,
course.
but if you want to be right before God, you can't badmouth a place that did yield you blessings in some,
Mm,
and I know for a fact that I was a part of that ministry during the transition of my first wife, during that tough season. So
Yeah.
it was that ministry, it was that man of God that helped me through that. So
Yeah.
whether the reasons that we left were positive, negative,
Doesn't matter.
I don't choose to put negative words on that or on that person or on that time because it got me here. The truth of the
Amen.
matter is we needed a fresh start.
Right.
We needed to be fed differently. And
Yes.
that's what we did. We didn't leave bad. We left professionally,
Yes.
and we left amicably. And I
Yes.
see him today and respect his office
Yes.
and, speak and be called you, regardless of what the news wants to say or what people think. He is God's man.
Yes.
I respect him. I just no longer am underneath that leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's that. Prior to him, I was with my godfather, who is your uncle, Bishop
Yes.
Wiley,
Yes.
who I love dearly, but
Mm-hmm.
again, a time of transition where I needed to get a fresh start and be
Yes.
something new. I had grew up there. So sometimes when you grow up in a place, you need to
Yeah.
be in a place where you can be a man now. And at that time, I couldn't be the man I needed to be. And I had
Mm-hmm.
to leave. And some years passed and we didn't speak. But now, we speak often and we see
Yes.
each other. You saw Apostle Pat, who I call mommy. I love her.
That's my Aunt Pat.
They've been a part of my spiritual growth, my
Yes.
foundation. And again, I will always honor the road I've taken to get to the place I am now.
Yes, yes, I love that. And I think that's something that everyone should do. And I also feel like there's a responsibility of leaders to not. I've heard horror stories of leaders cursing members who leave, not
Right?
speaking to them and all that. We can't do
Listen,
that. We can't afford to
listen,
do that as the
listen.
body of Christ. We got to be better than that. A true sign of maturity, whether somebody leaves wrong, right, or whatever, is to be like, listen, I want to thank you for your service. I want to thank you for your time here. I want to speak a blessing over your life. Because remember the story of Job, when his friends told him to curse God, and God told him to bless and go pray for your friends anyway, right? So the true blessings come in when we bless those, even those that's not blessing us,
That's
right?
the
And I believe that.
that's the Bible. One thing
Mm-hmm.
that I have to say publicly is I have a friend, a very good friend of mine, who knew that I left my church, and he asked me on my birthday if my pastor reached out to me, and I said no. I said no way. I said, you leave the black church, you're dead. You know, and it's a truth. It's a truth. So I had made it my business to kind of go dark on social media
Yeah.
after my birthday on December 30th, and I've not seen any of my posts. So I happened to go on earlier this week, and I saw that my bishop or my former bishop did post on my birthday. So I want to say
Mhm.
thank you to him and to everyone who I didn't say thank you to, because it let me know that there is maturity there between
Yes.
that relationship. I spent almost 9 years there. And again, whether I'm no longer there or not, there's no hard feelings on my end. And his post let me know there's none on his end either. And I respect him for that. Again, it's just preference. I just
Yeah.
don't choose to be there. But everyone who is there, go forth, go with God, be well,
Yes.
as I will do at my next place.
Amen. And I just want to say too that I remember, I've never felt, I remember Aunt Pat when I, was moving around and just doing so many things. She always encouraged me. She was like, look, do it, Chalet, do it. You know what I'm
Do it,
saying?
boo.
So I
Do it,
love
boo.
that about her. To this day, okay, I can walk to her house and knock on her door. She don't even know I'm coming. Aunt Pat, I'm here. She's like, Chalet. I can go to the church and be like, Aunt Pat, I'm here. Oh, Chalet,
Yeah.
So I want to say that that's so important. Without my spiritual mothers like Aunt Pat, who introduced me to my godmother that just passed, um, um, Apostle Michelle, and without them, I really those are the foundational roots that help me not only establish me in Christ, right? Besides my parents, of course, who are key to my salvation, but
And I love your parents. I love
yeah,
your mom. I love your dad. Your dad is always solid in my book. Your sweetheart. I love you, Auntie Peggy. Oh my gosh. But again, sorry.
yes. but just really mature in Christ, right? Because you need people who will put you to the fire who will tell you the truth about when you're wrong, you're right, you're good, you're bad,
Mhm.
and will say, hey, this is what God will do. You know what you doing? You off course. Where you going? Da, 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 right? And so spiritual maturity is so needed, and it cannot be about personality. Because I promise you, Chris, there were some days that I didn't know even where I was going, but they saw something in me that I didn't see in myself.
Yeah.
And so I love the fact that you mentioned some of those people who've matured you. Do you have any other people who really matured you in Christ or help you get to the point you are now in your manhood?
Well, definitely. Like I said, my kudos to my mom, who was the first introduction to
Yes.
Christ, and then my very first pastor, Pastor David Priestley, and his wife from the
Mm-hmm.
bar, and then others along the way. We went to a place called Helping Hands Ministry, Pastor Randolph Ferdinand. I've been to some places. There are other leaders who I respect highly in the city, who I love their ministry. Who have spoken into my life. Just a plethora. I don't want to start calling names.
Yeah. Plethora of people.
But
Yeah.
those who are most important to me are the ones who I felt the need to sit under their leadership. So the Wileys, definitely Bishop Nixon, and the ones who I named prior. One thing that I do want to say, that with the maturity, we have to understand that you mentioned rebuke
Mm-hmm.
and even discipline, if you
Yes.
that's really important.
Yeah.
But one thing that I want to make mention of is that I thank God for persons in my life who were able to discipline and rebuke without abuse.
Mm.
A whole different topic, but I think that it's something that needs to be spoken about.
Yes.
That I don't need for you to abuse me for me to show my loyalty to you.
Ooh, that's
You
good.
can discipline me, you can rebuke me. It can be harsh, it can be crushing, but a parent knows abuse. And that's why this BCW and this ACS, because
Yes.
it needs
Yes.
to be regulations on what is too far. Now, we may say, I believe in spanking or I don't believe in spanking, but there is something that says, you know what, that's too far. Last night, Bishop Jakes was having a panel of men speak during his Bible study. And he told him, he said, and these are grown men. He said, I will get in your face and rebuke you, but I'll never embarrass you publicly. And that, Shalay, that like
That means
tears.
everything.
It had me in tears, because I'm like, that is so powerful that this great man, he's a global leader, is not too big to say, hey, I'm gonna get in your face, I'm gonna rebuke you, I'm gonna tell you off, but I'm not gonna embarrass you publicly. And he said, now behind scenes, I'm gonna get you. But in front of people, because I can't embarrass you and I can't abuse you and then want the people who you serve to respect you after that. They have to see you respect me even in error for them to
So
also do the
good.
same. So I think that needs to be said.
And
And
I think that this is another thing. It's a
yeah.
difference between people who are pastoring now and people who are leaders. I've said this in another show, because
Mm,
I see a lot of people who have taken on positions but don't have leadership training. And I
mm,
think it's so important that as a leader, you have training. And one thing that I can say about my spiritual mothers, Apostle Wiley, my godmother who passed, they never rebuked me publicly, number
yeah,
one. Number two, they never rebuked me publicly without loving me, coming back and loving me.
yeah,
And I think that's what a good parent does, right? Even when I tell my children off, I come back and I say, listen, you know why I had to tell you, right? Because I
you have
believe
to
in
do
you.
that. You have
You
to.
have to speak life
One
in a
thing that
situation.
Apostle Pat would always do, and I love it to this day, she would cut you,
Yes.
but in the same breath, she's gonna heal you.
Yes.
She would never cut you and leave you cut. That
Yeah.
that's I just can't understand that. Like, you would cut me and leave me cut to bleed.
Well, there's too many people that are leading from a broken place. There are too many people that are pastoring from a place of hurt. There are
Right,
too many people who are not spiritually mature. You
right,
know, to be a pastor and a leader, you have to take some wounds, right? There's a reason why Jesus had the stripes on his back, because he understood that in order for him to be the King of Kings, he had to have some wounds on his back to show that
right,
he was the King of Kings,
right,
right?
right,
And
right.
so any leader will have to have some scar battles, some battle scars. And that means having some battle scars and getting up and saying, I still love you.
Yeah.
And so I love what you just said, because I think it's something that especially the church needs to really work on. My mother just gave me a story the other day. She was a part of a ministry for many years. And she just decided she wanted to transition to another ministry to do some more community work. And she was like a little nervous, right? Because she's really loyal to her church. And when she finally got to speak to the first lady, she said, "Oh, Peggy, we're so happy for you. Go and be with God. You are welcome here anytime. You're always going to be an honorary member. We love you. We're going to support whatever you do."
Where's that church at?
She was like, "What?" She couldn't believe it. But I think that showed the true sign of, really maturing and really loving on people and not feeling like you own people. It's hard to let go of people you love, right? I mean, it's hard for me to let go of my children. I see them growing up being 19 and I want to hold on to them too.
Very hard.
But I think in order for them to mature, in order for me to mature, I need to see them grow as adults.
Right.
And so I do understand the pain that comes with pastoring, right? As someone who sat under, Apostle Wiley and saw things and was like, oh God, I don't even know how she's dealing with this. You know what I'm saying? I do understand there's a pain in pastoring. I do understand that there's a lot of maturity involved in it, right? But I think that's the call. That's the call,
Yeah. But when you leave out, even your children, my children, if your daughter or son marries, they carry a different last name, but they can never refute that they're your child.
So good.
And you as a parent can never say, I know, that's your wife now, but I'm still dad. I'm still mom. And I think that's the maturity that pastors should have. And hey, you choose to move on, whether it was, a good reason or not, but you still came from me. Those gifts, those talents, they were practiced here.
Yeah.
And even if you want to deny it, we know where you came from.
That's so good.
Mature on both ends, because you can't deny where you came from. I will always be a son of where I came from.
Amen.
I'm a Wiley son. I'm a Nixon son. Whether it was a good time or not, I came from there.
Yeah.
How many crackhead parents do you know, or alcoholic parents that's still my mom. That's still my dad. I came from a rough place, but I honor that place still.
Oh, I love that. Honor that place. I love that. That's so deep to me. I love that. I want to talk about marriage, because I had this conversation, and I've been talking. I love to get men on the show, married men on the show, because I think, people still see men. The stereotype is men see marriage as, I know you don't, because you got married at an early age, but you've been through enough to be able to speak on it. Men see kind of marriage as a thing. It's like, I don't know. We all look for love, but I think it takes a mature man to deal with marriage, right? Can you talk a little bit about the growth that you see in marriage, right? The growth that marriage requires, and why you feel like it's still imperative for people to decide, for men especially, to decide to be married?
There's a duality when it comes to marriage, because marriage requires you to be selfless, but you still don't want to lose self. So, that's where the maturity comes in, because I want to do what I want to do, but I also want to do what's good for you as well. And I think that's where people kind of get confused, because it'll never be equal. You'll never have 50-50. I don't
Never.
think that's what 50-50 is a joke.
It's a joke.
A lie. So you're going to always, have one side that tips the scale, but you got to find the formula that works best for you. Marriage is about maturity. It takes a lot. One of the things that I'm learning in my second marriage, I'm going on year 3 now, and we've been through so much since the start. We really haven't had a chance to really enjoy the beauty of marriage, because so many trials and storms. But we're going forward, thank God. And I love my wife. I love her. I'm sure she's watching from upstairs. I love her and I appreciate her. But I realized that we got to be intentional about marriage. Got to be intentional about the success of marriage daily. Daily. One of the things that I've learned is that I cannot do marriage or life period, but marriage in particular on autopilot. Autopilot is the worst because although autopilot presents you a level of comfort,
Mm-hmm.
it also offers a disconnect because while on autopilot, you stop doing the work to move forward.
Ooh, that's
When the
good.
car has, that autopilot on, you don't have to do the work of using the pedals. So your foot isn't on the gas or the brake. And, they now have these cars who drive themselves. So there's no steering wheel. Autopilot is for a short period. We get so caught up that we make autopilot a forever. So now I'm here, I'm being a husband, I'm doing things, but I'm disconnected because I no longer am in the mode of being intentional
Wow. Wow.
about loving on my wife, intentional about doing things that make her happy,
Yes. Yes.
intentional about being honorable and being respectful. You got to get rid of the autopilot, but it happens from being burnt out. And
Yeah.
I've been on autopilot tons of times with marriage, with church, with parenting, with manhood, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
so burnt out that now I revert to just doing what I know to do because I can do it. So I can be a father from a distance. I can, be a husband. I'll cook. I'll clean. I'll make love. But I'm disconnected.
Ooh, I love that. Stay right there because I
Yeah,
want to talk about that. I know what that feels like, that
sure.
burnout. Well, I mean, I think at one point I had such serious burnout that I was like, am I having a nervous breakdown? You know what I'm saying? Like, I
Yeah.
thought, am I having a nervous breakdown? Something's not right. That burnout is so real. And I don't think people talk about it enough. Right. Um, and I think also some of us are unconscious about the fact that we're in burnout mode, that we're operating in burnout mode, we're loving in burnout mode, we're parenting in burnout mode. What made you conscious to the fact that you were in burnout mode, and how did you try to rectify it?
Well, the first thing is that auto autopilot, in a car, is to make it seem like you're driving.
Right.
So it's so easy to be burnt out and not admit it because things are still working.
Mm.
Autopilot still drives the car. You still get to your destination. So it's not like the car broke down and you're not moving. You're still moving.
Mm-hmm.
So you yourself must have an out of body experience to see you. Like, wait a minute. I just did something for my wife, but I don't feel anything about that. Like, I don't feel that. I'm making love, but there's no connection. I'm
Yeah.
I'm making breakfast, but there's no connection. I'm giving a kiss goodbye, before work, but there's no connection. So you yourself must be honest and say, hey, you know what? I feel no connection. And you must have communication, which I thank God for therapy, who has helped me
Yeah.
communicate what I feel. Because
Yeah.
I'm great at doing and moving. That's how I became disconnected from my children. I
Mm-hmm.
was providing for them, providing, making sure they had, food and a roof and money and clothes. But I lost that connection. And I was
Mm.
like, sorry,
No, it's okay. Yeah.
because I love my babies.
Yes.
And I was on autopilot,
Yeah.
being bad. And I had to shake myself.
Mm-hmm.
And there were so many outside interferences that was imputing their opinions to my children
Yeah.
while I was just trying to survive. I wasn't on autopilot because I was lazy. I was
Right. Right.
out. I lost my wife,
Yeah.
while I'm still trying to function. And that autopilot for me was a safety mechanism to still do. Because in
Yes.
my head it was either I break down and stop moving,
Yes.
or I go on autopilot and we still
Oh,
nowhere.
that's so deep. I know that feeling. I
So
know
it's
that. That's so deep. And I
and I'm
know this
sorry for being,
testimony is gonna help.
emotional, but it's a
Yes.
real place. It's reality.
Yeah.
And this platform is so powerful because, like I said, I've never shared it, and I plan to one day, podcasts and things like that. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm still living life, so
Yeah.
when you find that space not to get burnt out, to do a podcast
Yeah.
or do a show or write a book, because burnout can always happen if you
Yes.
don't be honest to find rest.
Yes. Oh God, yes.
You know,
Yes. I know what that's like, and I feel like that's the devil's ploy, right? To keep us in the fight. And I remember one time I was in a plane and I was just like, God, I'm tired of fighting. I told God that. I was flying somewhere. I don't know if I was going to a conference. And I was like, I'm tired of fighting. I feel like every time I turn around, there's another fight. There's another war. He said, Chalet, he told me this. I heard him. He said, you see how you're high above and everything on low, you can see the houses, but they look like mini toy houses and stuff like that. He said, your problems will start to look like that when you get more into me.
wow, wow,
He
powerful,
said, when you get into me and who I am, and
powerful,
what I'm going to do into you, when you get high enough into who I am as God in your life, those problems you have are going to look like toys.
powerful, powerful.
And I never forgot that.
Wow.
I never forgot that. And I know it might sound crazy, but I promise you that when you get in Christ and you begin to get into Him, I'm talking about like prayer, fasting. I'm not just talking about reading the Bible. Reading the Word is great, right? Because we got to know the Word. People can preach the Word, but a lot of people don't want to do the work like prayer, like getting on your knees for an hour, praying to God, crying out to God. God, I need this situation to change. I need you to manifest yourself in my life. And when I began to think, God, I want you to be so big in me that these things I'm going to seem like so small. And God has done it slowly, Chris. When I
Yeah,
tell you that the things that used to bother me don't bother me anymore, that the things that used to stress me can't stress me anymore,
yeah,
because I will automatically, immediately go to God and say, no, I know what you promised me. I'm
yeah,
not accepting this.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's I love that. I love that whole thing of burnout, because that's the devil's thing. He wants to get you burned out. Why? Because if you burned out, you can't work in your purpose. You
Right,
can't work in God's plan. You
right.
can't even sometimes hear God's voice,
You can't.
right? Because the burnout, the everyday motion got you going. And so that's what the devil is. He's a deceiver, he's a liar. The enemy is really trying to defeat us in this hour, to make us seem like that things are so much more important than
Right.
what God's plan and purpose is for our life. So I love that, because I know you love your babies. I know you love your children.
Yeah, yeah,
And sometimes it's hard for them to understand, right? And to even understand what that feels like, what we feel like, what the emotions that we went through. I do something with my kids every year. I sit them down and I'm like, all right, tell me what I could have done better this year as a mother.
wow. I like
And I
that.
don't get mad about nothing they say.
I like that.
I'm like, what can I done better? Tell
Mhm.
me. And they tell me, Mom, stop screaming. Mom, I don't like when you do this. And I've learned to do that and just to listen to them and take it in. Because, a lot of times we can be defensive as parents. And I said, okay, all right, I got you. I heard you. I'm gonna try to get better at this.
Yeah,
So I just think that these little things, will help us daily kind of, work on what God has from us. And I feel the more I get in God, the less burnout I have.
yeah. God. One of His names is Jehovah Shalom. He's the God of peace.
Yes.
So He'll give you peace that what surpasseth all.
All understanding.
How am I in peace and this just happened and that's crumbling around me and I lost this, but that's the peace of God. And even this conversation is really encouraging me more that Chris, you got to get more in God's face, because it's the Bible. These things only come but by prayer and fasting. Mark 9.
Yes.
You got to get in prayer. You got to fast, because some things are just that tough. It won't take a church service, or it won't take a laying on of hands, or
Yeah.
it's prayer and fasting, getting up early in the morning, in the wee hours of the morning, when you
Yes.
to seek God's face, and turning down your plate. You love to get some fried chicken and collard greens, but turn that stuff down and get to God's face, because the higher you go in God, as you said in that perfect analogy, is the smaller problem seen.
Yes. I just so want to encourage you, and just encourage you just to not get weary and good doing, and just keep pushing on. The devil will try to remind us of our past.
Yeah,
He will try to remind us of our mistakes. He
yeah,
will try to show us our regrets over and over. But God is not a God of condemnation.
right.
He is a God that will push us forward to our destiny and say, okay, daughter, you did that, but guess what? That's part of your testimony. You gonna help somebody else overcome.
So
So
true.
Chris, you gonna help another single father overcome. And I just believe that God doesn't do anything by mistake. So I love what you said about the burnout,
Yeah.
and about everything you said, even about therapy. I want to talk about that. How has therapy helped you?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Therapy.
Yes.
I'm still tearing up. Therapy is and has been amazing. My wife and I both go every week. I don't care what we're doing. We stop and we
Mm-hmm.
allot that 45 minutes to an hour to our therapist. And he isn't a Christian therapist. He's actually
Right. Mine
a
wasn't either.
Jewish
Mm-hmm.
faith. And he gives us the raw deal. Some weeks he gets on me. Some weeks he gets on her. Some weeks he gets on us both. But therapy has been a way of outlet. It's been a neutral perspective, because sometimes we think we're right and our way is the right way and she's wrong or he's wrong. Um, Therapy has helped me see me. It's helped me do things like, as you said, um, let your kids talk and listen.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, because as a man, I'm a solver, so I want to fix everything. So
Mm-hmm.
when you bring me a problem, my fix is the fix. So even if you're telling me, hey, I don't like that way, I can't hear you, because I'm like, you got a problem, I'm going to fix it, and that's the law. So therapy has helped me and is helping me, because I haven't gotten it down yet,
Right.
to listen to my children, to my
Yeah.
wife, to myself, to myself.
Mm-hmm.
Even through this period of dealing with my children, of my 5 children, the 4 who have lost their mom, all 4 of them, Sharice, Kayla, Chris Jr., and Krishan, the only one right now who's really challenged is Chris Jr. Chris Jr. is really challenged. So I want to hear him, but he won't talk to me. So
Mm-hmm.
now it's that other thing. Okay, now I'm ready to listen, but I have to give him time to get over the time that I didn't listen.
Ah, it's
So therapy
good.
helped me through all those leaps, those leaps and those jumps and those valleys and hills, on how to be a better dad, because I wasn't, and I'm okay with that now. I'm okay with knowing that Chris did
Yes.
not have all the answers. You did the best you could, but let's fix it. So therapy, I say, everyone who's hearing this now or watching it later on, get therapy. For every choice you make, get someone else's opinion who is neutral, who will tell you
Yes.
if you're wrong, if you're right. Seek it out. Pay for it. Many of your jobs have EAP,
Yes.
or just get therapy. It's a way, because men don't talk. We don't talk. I know I don't talk. I don't have many guy friends.
Yeah.
I don't trust people. So my therapist, like, I'm looking forward to Tuesday at 5 o'clock every week.
Yeah.
Just like, it's so bad where the Zoom session, like, it ends. He has to put a new code in, because I'm just like unloading and unloading.
Yes.
So please, sir, please, ma'am, get therapy for you, your children. Get therapy,
I
and don't
love it.
always look for a Christian therapist.
Yeah.
Get a professional therapist, because although we need scripture, we need practicality.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be practical.
I want to say that's so true. My therapist is not Christian therapist. She's faith-based, but she doesn't bring up the Bible in therapy or anything. And when I tell you that lady confronted me, I went to therapy for at least a total, maybe after my divorce, of 5 or 6 years, off and on. So I went to a man. He did therapy for 2 years, and he was wonderful. He was so good that when I was broke, I didn't have any money, this man did not charge me anything. He said, just come, I just want to make sure you're okay. I never will forget him. David was his name. He saw me right here in Manassas. I never will forget him. And then I got another, and he was a white man, great therapist. Then I got a black woman, and she confronted me as a woman. What boundaries are you setting for your life? You let these things happen because you didn't set boundaries. And so now, even now, I hear,
Mm-hmm.
her voice echoing, and it began to let me know that I had broken areas that I didn't even know was still broken. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? Sometimes we think we heal from old wounds and from our childhood, and we go to therapy, and it's like pulling old wounds that we never closed the door to in our lives. And I know that as Christians, we always think God and prayer is going to heal everything. Yes, God is the answer for everything. Don't get me wrong. But it's also, that's why God invented counselors and therapists to
Right.
pull those things out of us so that we may know the root issue of the problem and we can really go to God with the answers to the root issue. So I really I'm an advocate of
Yeah.
therapy and mental health and getting counseling and really being honest with who you are. And
Yeah.
so I want to just end with that. Like, it's hard to come to grips with who you are and being honest with looking at yourself. And I love what you said about men, because men often don't express themselves like emotionally, right? So how was it that you were able to just take a mirror to yourself? And as a man, what advice would you give to other men that are having a hard time expressing themselves emotionally?
It's funny you said mirror, because I believe that therapy is a mirror.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see me. And if you're getting ready to go out on a date or just outside, you go in that bathroom, you look in that mirror, and you trust that mirror to tell you what's out of place, what needs to change,
Mm,
add some more lip liner, fix your hair. You trust that mirror. And you won't tell that mirror, you're wrong. My eyelash looks fine. You trust the mirror.
right.
So
Yes.
therapy is that mirror that you trust to tell you what you can't see.
That's good.
So I encourage every man to understand that although you may be an alpha male, you may be strong, you may be a thug, you may be all
Whatever.
these things, you need a mirror, and you can't be your own mirror, because you would never tell yourself, that don't look good. You tell yourself, that looks good. You look fantastic, and go outside and be a mess.
Right.
You need to be honest enough to say, hey, you know what? Therapy doesn't mean I'm slow or I'm broken, or it means you are smart enough to have someone help you cope with trauma, even trauma from years ago. We think that because we're adults now, that childhood trauma doesn't follow us. It does.
It
I'm finding out
does.
that many things I'm doing now as a man is from things that hurt me as a child, or
Yes.
as a child. And now it's coming out as a man, and how I love my wife, how I parent my children, how I
Mm,
drive, how I like, everything is connected. So please, sir, trust a mirror, not your homeboy, not your homegirl, someone who has gone to school and who can notice different verbiage that you use or
yeah.
behaviors. Trust that person. It doesn't mean that you're crazy. It means you're smart.
Oh, I love that. So what's next for you, Chris? I know that you said you were going to write a book. I hope you do, because you have so much to share with the world.
Thank you.
Where do you see yourself in ministry and just in life right now? I know you have a newborn baby.
Yes. Oh my
So
goodness.
tell me about that.
Aiden Christopher is 8 months. He'll be 9 months on the 30th, and he has been the joy of my life through all of the
Mm,
drama and trauma. Seeing his face for the last 8 months has brought me so much joy. He's the
yes.
happiest baby ever. Um, what's next for me is I definitely am in the process of writing that book.
Good.
It isn't a tell all; it's a help all.
Send it to me. I'll edit it to you for you. I'll
Okay,
edit
thank
it for
you
you.
so much, because I think that you are one of the smartest women that I ever met. So I look
Oh,
forward to it.
Chris.
But yes, a book, a podcast, definitely, just to have dialogue again. Men don't talk.
Yes.
That blended families, parenting, marriage are taboo issues, but
Yes.
we need to discuss them.
Yes.
So that's what's next for me. My wife and I are aggressively going after a home purchase real soon. So that's what's on the horizon. As far as church goes and ministry, I'm really waiting on God, because I see things different now.
Yeah.
I want to be mentored. I heard you mention on the second with Curtis that you have a mentor. And that was
Yes.
so powerful to me that you said, I sought her out. Like, you went to look for her.
Yes. And let
So,
me tell you something
yeah,
totally different. I don't go to the church she goes to,
right.
right? We don't go to the same church together. Shout out to my mentor, Evangelist Keisha. I invest once a month going to see her. The
Yeah.
reason why it's so important to me, because she hears directly from God about my life.
Yes.
Okay. And there is not a dime that I paid that is not worth what I get from that mentorship program. It's
Yeah.
called the Chosen Treasures Mentorship Program. She mentors men, women all over the world.
Yeah.
And when I tell you, it's so powerful to me, because there are times that I'm struggling, and she knows exactly the word that God has for me for
Yeah.
that moment. So it doesn't always have to be somebody in your church, your pastor, somebody with a title. This woman was sent for God to spiritually push
And
me.
and it's important for your followers to hear the word invest. It's
Yes,
okay. Anything you want to do, you pay for it. If you want to go
that's
to
right.
school, you pay, a master chef to bring you into that chef world. So it's okay to invest in a mentor or a prophet. In
That's
this
right.
time, you must have your ear to the mouth of a prophet.
That's
And it
right.
may be an investment. It may be a seed sown, whatever you want to call it, whatever it costs, don't miss out because you hung up on a price.
Yeah.
You put money into it. So I'm looking now for a mentor. They
Now,
can
I
trust
also
me.
want to say something too about that. My one of my who's also like a spiritual mentor to me, Prophetess Latoya Carter. She taught me something too. She says you have to find out where your door is, and I'm paraphrasing her, and you have to give to that door. So
Mhm.
once you realize that this is my door. So this is the person that can open the doors for me. And you'll be able to see that just by you spending time investing. You invest in the person, and the doors start opening for you, right? So and people have different, she taught me this. People have different doors for you that will open. So maybe this person is gifted because they have a solid marriage. So
Mhm.
you invest in that door and
Yeah.
you say, I am investing in this grace that's on your life. So that way, me investing in you, God will honor me for marriage when it's my time, you
Yeah.
know? So I've learned to do that, right? And my mentor, I invest in it because when I invest in what she's producing in me, it brings something in me and God doubles whatever it has been I'm invested in this time. So to me, it's not even a thought, to be honest. It's like
Because
something I do self, like
is the
without even
key
thinking.
that unlocks that door. The investment
Yes,
is the key. You can't get in that door without a key.
yes,
So you need to invest because think about it. Anything else that you want, you invest into it
that's
to
right.
achieve it. You don't get nothing for nothing. You get something for something.
Yes,
Investment is a key, and I believe wholeheartedly in sowing seed.
me
A
too.
farmer sows into soil
Me
and
too.
yield fruit. So sow, invest, whatever you call it, donation, offering, whatever you
Yes,
call it. Find somewhere, find someone that can yield you an open door, but it won't open up without the key of that investment.
yes, so good. Oh my God, that's so good, and it's so needed for these times. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying? I love what you said. Keep your ear to a prophet. You
yeah.
have to. Like I don't know, like I'm scared of people who don't. You know what I'm saying? Like literally, I have been like on the ground, and I've had my when my godmother was alive. God bless her. She
Mhm.
would. God just gave me a word for you. I need you to get up off the ground. Like she was right there in the room. She's all the way in Colorado. She telling me to get off the ground in Virginia. You know what I'm saying?
Out.
Because
She
this God
was
would just give her spiritual eyes for me. And
no
so
joke.
it's made the difference in my whole entire life.
Yeah, yeah.
So you gotta stay connected. You gotta stay connected to God's people.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. You got to find someone, you know,
Hmm.
and I thank God for your godmother. For other ones who I know have a keen gift,
Yes.
they just stay in God's face, and can tap in for you because you need that. This pandemic and this COVID
Yes.
19 and Omicron and all the other variants, you got to have your ear to God's mouthpiece, His prophets,
Yes.
because you never know what tomorrow will hold, and they
No.
that door again, but you got to invest. You got to have that key. And I'm not scared. I'm not scared of investment
No. Me
because
either.
investment, good investment, yield
Hmm.
results.
Oh, so true, so true. Um, and really, Chris, I believe that you just got to see what the person's doing with their life, how
Yeah,
they living their life, right?
yeah.
And you'll be able to, if you pray. I prayed, and I'm telling you, we've been connected. When I prayed, it almost was like God heard me, and immediately God connected us, and I knew it was a God connection.
Mm.
So it's not ever going to be a question of who's going to be your spiritual mentor, because when you find that person, you're going to know.
Right, 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 right.
Yeah, you're
And
going to know who it is.
others who are telling you, girl, don't do that. I wouldn't do that. Those are the people who have closed doors all around them.
Yes.
I need people in my life who have open door access.
Yes. Not only that, I don't know if you feel this way, but as I get older, my vision becomes bigger. God has expanded my vision. And so I've been so conscious of not um, clicking with people who have small vision,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm quick to say that's good for you, but what God got for me, you know what I'm saying? So I think that that's so important that we stay aligned with people who understand that God has big purpose, big vision, big plan for us.
That's good. That's so good. I'm telling you, my wife is a dreamer. Sometimes
Yes.
dreams are like, and she just believes that she can have it all. It's nothing.
Yes, I love it.
Is right now. I'm sitting in her office, and if you see what's around me, it's like she's a big dreamer. Like nothing is small when it
I
comes to,
love that.
and I thank God for that kind of wife in my life who won't let me think small.
Ooh, I
Like I
love
said,
it.
going after a house now, the houses that she sees are just like astronomical. But
Yeah.
that's where her mind is and her vision is there. So where I'm low, she pulls me up. Where she's low, I pull her up. So I think that again, back to marriage, is what is making it work. That we're still moving. We're still
Mm-hmm.
moving, and the vision is big.
Yeah.
Why would you have a small vision for a big God?
Ooh, I love it.
Big God, big vision.
Yes.
God, big faith.
Yes.
God, big investment.
Yes.
If you sow sparingly, you'll receive sparingly.
Reap for
But if you
real.
sow bountifully, you'll receive bountifully. Don't
Yes.
be afraid of an investment that's going to yield you large fruit. Like you said, look at the life of the soil. Look at
Mm.
the life of the place where you're investing. If that soil has yielded other trees around you, then I can bet you bottom dollar if you invest, it'll yield you a tree too. But if you're
Yes.
sowing into investments or sowing into soil rather, that's not yielding trees, that's not a good investment. Keep
No.
that. Go where it's working. And that's why
Yes.
in this season where I'm in not limbo, but I'm not at a church right now, my eyes are on Bishop Jakes because that's good soil.
Yes. I
In
love I
Texas,
love Bishop Jakes.
he always has something in his mouth to feed me.
Woo, me
That
too.
friend saying, Chris, oh, you've been out to church too long. Listen, mind your business.
Love it.
I'm waiting because I can't, after being in church all the years I've been in church, after serving in the capacity that I've served, I can't just join
No, no.
anything. And I'd rather seek virtual substance than just sit somewhere just to sit somewhere. So right
Yeah.
now, my vision is where he is, and it's
Yeah.
big. And I'm going to sow into that because it's
Yeah,
a
there's so many great like ministers out there that you can like, kind of tap into to get
yeah,
fed everything. I love, TD Jakes is one of my favorite. I like Apostle Selman, Joshua Selman,
really.
amazing man of God.
Never heard of
He's
him.
African, wonderful. I'm right now under ministry with Prophet Passion and Apostle Innocent Java that, wonderful people of God. So
Wow.
there's so many,
Yeah.
people of God that's always that I can eat off of and feed off of. And,
Yeah.
every now and then I tap into All of Joy service and they always
Yes.
got something good for me.
Yes. Yes.
I love it because I feel like All of Joy is always going to be my home. And so I love what God is doing, in this season. And God will point you to the right direction and it's on God's timing. So I love the where you're at right now.
Mhm.
Sometimes it feels like the holding place is the stay
Yeah,
still place, but it's not. The holding place is exactly where it is, so God can shoot you up higher, right?
exactly.
And so I love that. I thank you, brother, for being on my show. You told me you would not go on nobody's show but mine, and I was like,
Nobody so I've said no to other friends and not to be shady, but just didn't feel right. I
right.
didn't want anybody to think I'm throwing off on them or whatever the case may be. I love everybody.
Yes,
And even though we may not be in fellowship, so to speak,
yes,
I love everyone. I love you.
yes. I
You've
love you
always been
too.
solid. I'm 41 today. You're still 25.
I'm
I've been,
42.
we've been together since we were teenagers.
Right.
Teenagers. So literally 20 plus years. I love you. I thank you. I watch your show. I
Yes.
watch your platform, and I encourage others watch this platform.
Yes. Like, share, subscribe
Yes.
to YouTube. It has all my interviews on it. Like, share, subscribe. Sharing is caring.
Yes.
Yes. So thank you so much, brother. You guys, this is the end of the January series. We got some amazing speakers coming up in February. I'll be coming out with that soon. I want everybody to stay blessed. Enjoy the rest of this month. While we're waiting for this month to end, I'm going to be sharing all these great clips of these interviews of people and all their awesome stories and everything they had to say. So check them out. All right. Stay blessed, everyone.
Peace.